we found a whole settlement, many houses, and these we think are the houses that were lived in by the people who built this thing here. We also think that it's part of a bigger complex, that Stonehenge wasn't here in isolation, sitting on Salisbury Plain, but was part of a much bigger group of monuments. Underneath my feet is the largest Neolithic village that we've ever found in Britain. There are houses beneath this grass stretching all the way up this valley. They're quite small, they're about 14 feet by 14 feet, little square buildings with a clay floor and a central fireplace. They're very like houses that we know from the islands of Orkney off the north coast of Scotland. There, they're preserved in stone, but here they were built out of timber. On the floors of the houses and all around them, we have found literally tons of food waste. It's the bones of cattle and pig, it's the broken pieces of pottery, the cooking debris of not just ordinary life, but of feasting. These are people who knew how to party. And what we think we're looking at is the campsite, the base for the builders of Stonehenge. So they were putting up big stones. They needed a lot of food to keep them going. And this is where they had their supper every day. The houses date to the 26th century BC. And what's really important about that is that the 26th century BC is when they put up the great sarsen stones here at Stonehenge. So we think that these aren't two entirely separate things, that basically this is where the builders are living, to walk over here each morning, pick up their tools, put up the big stones, and then back home in the evening as part of their daily routine. And then later on, of course, they're also using that place when they're coming to hold their ceremonies at Stonehenge as well. This is a time long before recorded history, so we're looking at a period that is 4,500 years ago. It's long before we have any reports from Caesar about ancient Britons and so forth. So we're really looking at people who are among the earlier farmers in Europe, and farming is something that was brought from the Middle East a few thousand years before Stonehenge was put up. So we're looking at farming communities, how they were organised, probably into small territories all across Britain at that time. And what we're looking at really is the organisation of bringing together particular groups all to share in this enormous series of tasks, not just putting up this lot, but also putting up its wooden counterpart at Darrington Walls. Well, I think what we're seeing is this is really all one monument complex, that Darrington Walls and Stonehenge, they're not two separate cultures or societies. This is the same community. And what they were really doing was building a great stone monument for their dead and building a timber version around which they had all their ceremonies to do with life. So we're really seeing the wood and the stone being used to represent the difference between life and death. Here we are at Darrington Walls, and it is a henge, the biggest henge. So it's about a quarter of a mile across, and it's formed of a bank with a ditch inside it. So it's not defensive, if anything it's to keep things in, and it was built at the same time as the stones went up at Stonehenge, round about 2500 BC. Today, of course, it's partly covered by a modern road, and that's how it was found. In 1967, there was a big road scheme, huge archaeological excavation, and half of it turned up while they were digging the road line. We've dug another bit of it, so we now know finally what it looks like fully in plan, and you can see it. The tree growing against the road embankment is pretty much in the middle of it. So unfortunately, you can no longer see it because of the road, but once upon a time, there it was in wood, just like Stonehenge stands still today in stone.